Hello and welcome to Navani Lore and Theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at the skills and abilities of the staff of Ainz Ooal, and about a few more it could actually have. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as a thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Because there exists an item that can save the theocracy from the wrath of Ainz Ooal and his legions of the undead, his demonic creations, his vengeful generals, and the many other servants under his command. An item capable of completely eliminating the greatest threat to the New World since the appearance of the 8 Kings of Avarice. An item that carries within it the very essence of the Great Tomb of Nezarec. An item of unfathomable power. An item that required an immense amount of time and resources just to be created in the first place. An item so powerful that it can pierce even the defense of true walking fortresses such as Albedo. And yet, it is also an item that should never again see the light of the outside world, for its destruction would mean the end of Ainz Ooal itself. Hidden from the greedy eyes of the world, it slumbers within the cherry-blossomed sanctuary, guarded by Auriel Omega, the youngest, yet strongest of the Pleiades battlemates, the staff of Ainz Ooal. An item that comes close to rivaling the world items themselves in terms of sheer power and strength. An item that even in the days of Yggdrasil Online, not even Ainz himself was permitted to use, as its destruction would have meant the dissolution of the guild. And today, we will go into great detail about every known ability of this staff of Ainz Ooal. And the first is that this staff in the New World, similar to how Khajiit's Death Orb functioned, developed its own consciousness and will. The staff itself can independently carry out the will of its overlord as well, and once unleashed in battle, it would not simply fall to the ground, but continue fighting on its very own. In this sense, the staff functions like a more intelligent version of Lachius's floating swords, making it an enormous advantage in combat. Anyone who has fought Margit in Elden Ring, with and without summons that is, will recognize the huge difference it makes to have a second entity capable of fighting alongside you, keeping the enemy occupied and applying pressure, and also drawing aggro away from yourself. Even this one trait alone, its consciousness, is an incredible advantage. Like the Ring of Sauron, it also only accepts Ainz Ooal as its true master. And the staff itself is composed of dozens of rare items, each already extremely powerful in their own right, but through synergy effects they gained even stronger abilities, and in some cases unlocked entirely new ones. Furthermore, it's important to remember that we do not yet know all of its powers. And the first ability I want to discuss is the enormous boost it grants to its wielder. Ainz's stats are massively increased by it. And since a 5-level increase, or the equivalent in stat bonuses, was often the deciding factor between victory and defeat back in Yggdrasil Online, and because one's own stats versus the enemy's stats are what ultimately determines the resistance to effects, such as an aura of fear or insta-death magic, the fact that Ainz Ooal was able to instill fear even in all of the floor guardians, including the highly defensive Albedo, suggests to me that the stat increase must be far greater than just 5 levels. It's likely in the range of 20 to 40 levels worth of the stat increase that is, which is a boost similar to the one Ainz himself can grant to his many undead. And we don't know the exact number, but it seems a very likely estimate to me. Next comes an important effect. Again, only Ainz Ooal can use this item at all. For all other beings in Yggdrasil Online, the staff would have been absolutely useless in battle, and the only value it had was a bargaining chip, something to blackmail the Great Tomb of Nezarec with. In the New World, however, this staff could potentially be wielded by inferior Baliar, since he was already able to put on and use the Crown of Wisdom, even if unwillingly, because he possesses a special talent to wield every single item in the entire world. And with that said, we move on to our first spell on the list, Crack in the Ground. This is not a hiding place in Kensington, but a 9th tier divine spell, which works similarly to the Pokémon move Fissure, with the potential for an insta-death effect. But unlike it also deals continuous damage over time, while the victim is sinking into the ground, and this also greatly hinders the movement of the enemy. The next spell is one we have already seen as a skill used by Demiurge, but it also exists as a mere 8th tier spell, Dimension Lock. This magic prevents any teleportation within a designated area, without restricting physical movement. It's essentially like a warp seal in Warhammer 40k. You can still move around in real space, but you can no longer enter or exit the warp. Next we have Firestorm, a spell unleashed through the red jewel in the mouth of one of the serpents. It has an area of effect nature, inflicting likely massive damage to multiple enemies at once. However, we do not know its exact tier or strength. Another spell is cast through the sun jewel in the mouth of a different serpent, Shining Blast. And this is also an area of effect damage spell, but with a special condition: the more evil you are, the more damage you take. In other words, the lower your karma value is, the greater the damage inflicted. And something similar was seen with the holy sword Sarfalesia, which Remedios used in battle. And just like Sarfalesia, the damage effect decreases the higher the target's karma value actually is. Next we turn to the Elementars. Each jewel in the mouth of the serpents can summon one special one, depending on the element tied to that specific jewel. These Elementars are all between level 87 and 90, making them among the strongest elementals that can actually be summoned. And they cannot even be unlocked by simply leveling up and summoning classes. Special classes are required for them. So in the same way that Ainz Ooal has to sacrifice experience points to summon his strongest beings, like a Grim Reaper Thanatos, there's a cost attached to summoning these creatures in a normal way. Just like the goal of all life is death required a very specific class, that in turn required a very specific condition for unlocking it, you likely have the same thing going on with these elementals here. And the first of these elementars is the Primal Air Elementar. This monster can fly at extreme altitudes and dominate the skies with storms, wind blades, and other air-based effects. Just as wind magic in Fire Emblem is particularly effective against flying enemies, the Primal Air Elementar was designed for the battle against Cure Alim, essentially to prevent him from taking flight and force the dragon to fight on the ground. Next is the Primal Earth Elementar, and this one was essentially the tank of the Elementars. Slow, not especially precise, but possessing unbelievable destructive power and immense damage potential. It also embodies the properties of all metallic weapons. For example, Lupus Regina Beta or Sheltier Bloodfallen would take bonus damage when struck by it, simply because both are weak to silver, which is a metal. And humans, on the other hand, might suffer debuffs such as mercury poisoning or even radiation damage if they are hit. Next we have the Primal Fire Elemental. Its flames can scorch entire ranks of enemies, and it possesses a very powerful area of effect attack. In addition, its seed aura alone inflicts damage that Ainz himself did not suffer only because he's 100% immune to fire, thanks to his equipment. And even though this element stood no chance in battle against the two floor guardians at once, Mara and Aura, it is still an extremely effective weapon against the undead, such as Cure Alim, since its fiery aura alone could potentially burn it, and of course the fiery aura of it can also destroy approaching weak undead enemies. And this brings us then to the Primal Star Elementar, which is even more powerful and level 90, and I suspect it is summoned through either the Sun or the Moon Jewel, the same jewel likely responsible for summoning the Moon Wolves as well. And the Star Elemental also possesses tremendous power. though the details are not known. It may, for example, strengthen the power of lycanthropes, such as Lupus Regina, in order to increase her power while transformed in her werewolf mode. And just like the Earth Elementar, it probably carries unique additional effects with any of its attacks. And finally, we have the Primal Water Elementar, a level 87 monster, and it is immune to blunt damage and nearly all negative status effects, since water is often associated with healing powers. See also Aqua from Konosuba, and again this fits its theme really well. And that concludes the standard elementars. But we also know that there are synergy effects when combining all of the jewels. Effects we likely have not seen yet. For example, it may be possible to create an overpowered entity, such as a phoenix, by combining several avatars together. Next, let's look at a spell tied to the Moon Jewel, Veil of Moon. This does not summon a Great of Sword, but instead raises a protective barrier that shields against incoming damage. Something like the Pokemon moves Barrier or Protect. Following that is the spell Vermilion Nova, the strongest standard fire spell, and this is the same 9th tier spell that Sheltia Bloodfallen used in her battle against Ainz Ooal. And fun fact, nearly all regular spells can be amplified with meta magic, meaning their damage or their overall effect output can be maximized, or they can even be cast 2 or 3 times in the same time, in one single move. In addition, the staff can be used to summon relatively weak wolves, known as Moonlight Wolves, which are only around level 20. They are fast and effective in packs, but weak in terms of defense, and they were mainly used for testing how fast certain immunities and effects would carry over into the new world at the start of the novels. Most likely, each additional jewel also allows for dozens of weaker monsters like this to be summoned, which can then be unleashed en masse against the enemy. Even if they are individually weak, such disposable summons are useful for countering enemy hordes, without having to pull one of Nezaric's truly important fighters or one of the greater summonings away from the main target. Finally, the Staff of Ainz Ooal not only boosts one's stats, but also enhances the unique racial or special abilities tied to one's avatar. For example, had the staff been crafted for Lupus Regina, a lycanthrope, her werewolf abilities would be strengthened to an extreme, and Ainz Ooal as an undead overlord gains more powerful insta-death magic and fear effects, as seen with Ainz Ooal's aura of fear. And an angel would likely gain even stronger buffs, healing magic, and bonus damage against evil creatures. And to return once more to the staff's importance as a guild item, with it, certain areas of Nezaric that are normally inaccessible to NPCs can also be unlocked, and certain restrictions in character creation and editing can be bypassed. For instance, Ainz could use the staff not only to alter the character description of Pandora's actor, his personal NPC, but also those of other NPCs, such as Albedo. In fact, he did just that at the end of Yggdrasil Online, rewriting Albedo's backstory even though she was originally created by Tabula Smaragdina and not himself. In other words, with the staff, Ainz could even undo his mistake and removes Albedo's love for him. But this is something Albedo herself would not want, which is why Ainz does not do it. And with that said, the powers and abilities of the staff of Ainz Ooal are sufficiently explained. And now it's your turn. What are your thoughts about this topic and this video? Let me know it in the comment section. And while you type, I say thank you very much to my Patreons for their support, and special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Girl Yee, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon S, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Din Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Haster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Le Louche Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazer, Mervek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, Oh Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pentum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Sonegon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.